you. But my first question, John, is that I heard you say that feelings are not facts. And I really loved this concept. And could you please talk to us about how this relates to our own self worth? So I work with women. And then they always are holding on to their old story, like I'm the fat one, I'm the ugly one, I'm the, and and I try to convince them that it's not true. And so when you said facts are not feelings, it really spoke to me. Can you talk to us about reclaiming our self-worth and self-esteem and not believing these lies that are not true?
These feelings, anytime a feeling makes you feel not happy and fulfilled and good about yourself and good about others and optimistic, any feeling that's not so positive like that, what you're doing when you say, I feel something, feeling is not a fact, but it is a fact that I feel that. It's hard for people to discern that. You see, if I feel fat or I feel unlovable or I feel not good enough, or often where women goes, I feel like you don't love me. I feel like you don't care about me. I feel like nobody likes me. Whenever you say I feel in front of negative statements, content, you're affirming it as absolutely true. You can't let go of it. To feel something is to say, this is what my truth is. You can't tell me anything different. So you block any sort of adjustment to being flexible. But it's like we're going to feel things. And so when you feel content and it doesn't feel good, then what you need to do to let go of that belief that you're thinking is a fact and everything is a consequence. Like if you feel I'm fat and then you think, well, if I'm fat, then nobody will love me, or I'm not attractive, or I won't be loved. So it all comes down to feeling. Our feelings are not facts, but feelings do come up inside of us, because if you can define the word feeling, feeling is a way of knowing what's true without depending on an external source. You see, I believe, a long time ago, for thousands of years, people didn't have feelings. There's a book called a professor at Princeton wrote a book, amazing book, slow, kind of boring, but he traced history and literature and found that rarely, if ever, people use the phrase, I feel. This is it's like a step of consciousness where we can now go, oh, I don't have to depend on others to know what's good and know what's true. I can look within myself. And so it's like subjective awareness people didn't have before. I mean, why did people need to have 10 commandments? If you have a conscience, you know you shouldn't steal from people, hurt people, whatever. And before the 10 commandments, which were 10 rules, it was like there were 1,000 rules, just like our legal system. 1,000 rules is trying to, because people will go, well, I can't know what's true, so I have to read it in a book, and that tells me what's true. But Jesus came along and said, basically, and I'm not preaching, but it was a brilliant statement he made, which is the only rule you have to follow is love yourself, love your neighbor, and love God. Because when your heart is open, the law of God, the word of God, or higher power, however you want to look at it, is written in your heart. You automatically perform right action. But when you feel something and it doesn't feel loving, your heart is closed to yourself, then you need to adjust. Now, how do you adjust? It's built into our mechanism. When you feel fat, or feel not good enough, or feel not loved, or feel lonely, any of those feelings are just affirmation of that is true by feeling it. So what you do if it doesn't feel good, then you now adjust and let it go. Adjust, let your brain look at it. Your brain, or higher self, looks at anything that makes you suffer and says, let it go. And how do you do that? And you mentioned it in the beginning, the process I just love, I've done thousands of times, called a feeling letter or a love letter, emotional processing technique. I got different names for it. But when I feel not good enough, then I say, well, when I feel not good enough, what emotion does that make me feel? And if I feel not good enough, it makes me feel sad or hurt. It makes me feel angry. Somebody said I wasn't good enough. It makes me feel afraid. No one will ever love me. It makes me feel bad that I'm not good enough. There's an emotion of I regret that I did this, or I regret that I did that. I'm sorry about this, or I'm sorry about that. That regret feeling of sorrow. So those emotions, when you feel an emotion, it's no longer content. It's no longer a fact. And suddenly you let it go. Your brain will let it go. Let me give you an example in short. Most people, when they're angry, for example, you say, oh, I think you're really afraid. They go, no, I'm angry. Or if somebody feels, I feel so hurt. I feel so hurt. I go, yeah, I understand you feel hurt, but you're also feeling rather angry, aren't you? See, our emotions sit on top of each other. So think of it like an iceberg. There's always, everybody's a little different here, but the top emotion is always the least important to feel. So you want to feel emotions, because then you're feeling pain. Then your brain, your higher self goes, oh, that belief you have that you're feeling is causing you pain. So it must be wrong. It must be wrong. The way our soul communicates to us is through, when you have thoughts that are not true, they will always be painful. When you have thoughts that are closer to the truth, you will always feel good. Like I feel good believing my future is bright and wonderful. Oh my gosh, I'm going to give this interview. We're going to have a great time together. So I feel good. If I thought, oh, this is going to be a bummer, I'm not good enough and whatever, I'm not going to feel good. So you go by, your heart is open when you feel good. Your heart is open when you feel accepting and appreciative and admiring and excited and motivated or peaceful or calm. There's all these positive attributes to having an open heart. But when you're suffering, your heart is not open. And when we suffer, it's painful. The universe, everyone gives us pain. Our body makes us feel pain when our thinking is off track. Same thing. If I have a cut on my arm, I will feel pain, so my brain can go and heal that. Well, when we have emotional pain, by feeling it, and particularly sharing it with others who are feeling empathy, can accelerate the process. A lot of people don't have enough self-awareness to release it on their own. Maturity brings that, but in the process of developing, just having somebody else hear your pain and reassure you everything's